me?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Okay, finally we're getting this worked. Okay, so Sarah, you don't live in Colorado anymore, right?
Nope.
And have you seen the autopsy results?
I have. Yes. I looked up a whole bunch of different articles and things today whenever I saw that they had come out.
Okay. So tell me, what was your first reaction when you saw that?
So initially, I was just happy that they had something because obviously, for coming up on 4 years, we've all been waiting for closure and just some sort of answer as to what happened to her. Obviously, it was a big relief when they found her body, but obviously, there was still that lingering, how did she get there? How did we come to this stage? So that was nice just knowing we had that part, but then obviously finding out what had caused it. I don't know if I'm talking to myself now, but I'll keep talking to you people.
I'm
I
here.
was more
I
so,
just I just changed it to just you talking for now.
okay, that works. Um, but obviously seeing what the results were and what they found in her bones still, that was huge because obviously knowing the backstory and a lot of the things that we've already experienced with this case, that was very, very eye opening for sure. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, um, the prosecution predicted that some sort of tranquilizer material would be in Suzanne's remains, and the autopsy result pretty much says that's what they found in her right femur and her right femur head. Um, there was also a lot of other items and clothing and pieces of fabric that were found in that shallow grave in Moffett in Saguache County in Colorado, that I was kind of shocked about, in regards to, if you haven't read it fully, I'll just read it, the list of all the items that were also found. A pale pattern balaclava, a pink and light color leather work glove, a light color partial padded bra, a ripped dark blue gray hooded sweatshirt labeled Crested Butte, a torn green Nike tank top, a Yeti shorts, and and pieces of fabric that were fragments of fabric. Sorry, and both the clothing as well as the pieces of fabric were all weathered and covered in dirt. And a lot of people were wondering, once they did find Suzanne, what would she be wearing? Would she be wearing, clothes that she went to bed in? Would she be wearing the bathing suit that the last known photo of her she was wearing in? Would she be wearing biking clothes that, people had claimed that she went on a bike ride and never returned? And, were you shocked at all by the items that were found?
Yes and no, only because I feel like those, with the grave being as shallow as it was, I feel like a lot of those things would have come to the surface at some point, or it was just odd that that much stuff was there, I guess. I just feel like it's kind of hard to believe that that stuff was in that location for so long and hadn't moved or, blown away or gotten, uprooted from animals digging or different things like that.
Yeah, Whitney is mentioning that, they weren't able to locate her shoes or any bones from her feet. I was speaking with an investigator, and he was telling me that typically rodents, things that scrap at human remains, usually go for the hands and feet first, just because they have little to no muscle, and they're easy to get at, I guess, is what this investigator told me. And it is a good question. Like, was she wearing shoes? Where are her bike shoes? Like, her bike shoes were never found, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What about socks? Was she wearing any socks? That's a good question, too, to
Yeah.
raise. Um, Still, there's been no arrest made. Right now, it's just here's the autopsy results, and they're still investigating, right? They said that CBI, Chaffee County Sheriff's Office, as well as the Federal Bureau of Investigation are working closely with the 12th Judicial District, which is in Saguache County. Tomorrow is Suzanne's birthday, I would like to add. Thank you, Sunny, for watching.
Yeah, I think one of the saddest parts too is obviously, you know, all of us in this community that have been following the case are happy that there's some sort of closure now, but more importantly, like her family, her siblings who have been searching for her and wanting answers for years, and now the daughters too. I think that was something that hit me as well, is just knowing that now they know for sure. Obviously, when they found the body, that was a big thing, but just having some sort of answer, even if it's not 100%, having something to kind of lean on as a reason to why this all happened. Like, I hope that that brings the girls some closure. But I feel like that's just as hard because there isn't a 100% answer to how she was killed. But I was thinking about them for sure.
I think also, like, we've waited for so long to get answers, and a lot of what came out today brought even more questions, right?
Yeah.
And also we have to think about that, these remains had been out in the desert for years. We're coming up on the fourth year mark of her disappearance. And people need to realize, all these bones that they collected had no tissue on them.
Yeah.
No soft tissue. None of the bones. So you have to think about how long those had been exposed to the sun and the elements and animals. And according to, like, the investigators collecting the bones and putting them in separate, large paper bags and things like that, they collected remains for at least 3 days because they marked each paper bag day 1, day 2, day 3, skull 1, skull, day 1 skull, things like that. And people are wondering if there's going to be a different prosecution team. I know Ann Kelly is the 12th Judicial District DA. She's been, keeping her, what she knows about the case very close to her, and she hasn't done any interviews about the remains being found or the results from the autopsy. So I think they're, collecting all the information, all the investigation that all these 3 different, now 4 law enforcement officers have done, because you have to think about the Saguache County now on top of Chaffee County, and CBI and FBI now are all involved with this case. I'm reading some of your guys' comments. We are all praying for justice for Suzanne, I would say, for sure. I was kind of playing phone tag with some of Suzanne's family members today, and I'm hoping to connect with them tomorrow about their reactions to the news and kind of what they're hoping for the future, right? They want justice for Suzanne. Let's kind of go back, Sarah, for folks that don't know the case as well as we do, about kind of what transpired. So Suzanne Morphew was reported missing. I always like to say reported missing on Mother's Day, May 10th, 2020, because A lot of people have thought that she disappeared prior to May 10th and that she was just reported missing May 10th.
Yeah.
And a neighbor called 911 reporting, well, they didn't even call 911. They actually called the Chaffee County like non-emergency number to report that she was missing on Mother's Day. The neighbor also went over to the Morphew house off of Puma Path multiple times, leaving even a note to say, hey, if Suzanne, if you come back, like give us a call immediately. We're worried about you. What else, Sarah? Her husband, Barry Morphew, wasn't arrested until a year after her disappearance. And then, you know, a week or so before this case was supposed to go to trial and to a jury, it was dismissed by the prosecution, so that they wanted to find her body so that they could bring charges in the future. And now in September of 2023, they found Suzanne's body and her remains. And 7 months later, now we're finding out that the autopsy is done and that tranquilizer, a sedative, multiple sedatives were found in her femur and her bone marrow. And along the way, before the case was dismissed, Barry Morphew himself admitted that he had thrown away tranquilizer darts that he claimed he said he used for squirrels as well as deer on his property so that he could take and remove the antlers illegally. That you cannot do that in the state of Colorado. He used to have a deer farm in Indiana, and he also used the tranquilizer darts for that as well. You can't see the, Sarah, you can't see the comments, can you?
No, I can.
Okay. So people are wondering, again, everyone is innocent until proven guilty by a jury, by people of Colorado. So I just want to put that out there. Cranky Babushka is asking, so he drugged her. His attorneys have gone today, and I will just read kind of what they said to media today. They still believe their client, Barry Morphew, is innocent. They say that he did not kill his wife. They said that she got up the morning of Mother's Day and had her cup of coffee. That's now confirmed with the autopsy report. Also confirmed with the autopsy report is that she put on her bike clothes, she was on a bike ride, and was abducted. The tranquilizer that was found in her bones, allegedly, is a very common animal tranquilizer that could be used on farms or by hunters, which are people who are very prevalent in that area of Salida. Again, this is Barry Morphew's attorney stating this. So they really believe that their client, Barry Morphew, is innocent, that he did not kill his wife, and that they still believe that someone abducted her and killed her. And that they're also claiming the animal tranquilizer is commonly used in Salida and the surrounding area. I've spoken to a lot of hunters in Colorado, and they say that's not something they use. My dad is a hunter himself, and him and his hunting buddies, they never have tranquilizer material or have ever used it. I know that a lot of park and wildlife officers use it for, removing an animal from one area to another animal. But again, you have to remember the timing of this. This is the peak of COVID, right, Sarah? No one was really allowed or suggested to go out and even go camping. I remember the governor of Colorado was like doesn't want people to go camping because he was worried about the spread of COVID. And this was really at the very beginning of that whole COVID 2020, right?
Yeah, it was right at the beginning of it.
Barry Morphew also admitted to investigators, according to the arrest affidavit, that he threw away tranquilizer material that weekend. Do you remember that, Sarah, in court, hearing
Yep.
that?
Yep.
People are just catching on that we're now live, so sorry for folks that were watching initially. We had a lot of technical difficulties, but we're back at it. It has been a while, Sarah. Like, did you think that this case, I know that like Iris Eaton, Barry's attorney, was like, this case, like, Barry Morphew, this case will never come to a courtroom again. I mean, she was very adamant that
Yeah.
this wasn't, they were never, well, she didn't say they never would find the body, but they just were very confident that this case wouldn't see a courtroom again.
Yeah.
And I do remember during one of the daughters' interviews with Good Morning America, she almost begged and looked into the camera and said, like, please find my mom. Like, I want answers. And now they're getting more answers, right? And I wonder, I know these last 4 years have been really difficult, but I'm hoping, the truth is going to come to light, right? And we're getting the truth now.
Yeah, it's just crazy to think how far this whole case has come over the last 4 years and all of the different twists and turns and new information that's come to light. And now we're finally getting some answers, hopefully.
Yeah. Sarah, are you going to come to Colorado when this comes to a courtroom?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah?
I've got my stare ready to go.
And just so everyone knows, Sarah's getting married this summer, which is really exciting. And I know we're talking about
only 3 more months.
Yay! Yeah, I just wanted to give everyone an update that Sarah is getting married, and I'm so excited for that. So
it's been a long time coming. I'm ready for it.
Someone's bringing up a good point. What did you think about a bullet being found, Sarah?
I thought
in the shallow grave.
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting piece for them to find. I know obviously with them being hunters and stuff, they probably had obviously more than just tranquilizer darts and stuff in their home. And so I just thought that was an interesting piece because I don't think that was ever something that people thought about as a possible cause of death, was that he or somebody shot her with a gun, just because you never heard about it. Neighbors didn't hear a gun go off, anything like that. So for them to find that was just kind of like a puzzling piece for me to try and put together.
But I think it's important to note that in the autopsy results, it didn't say it was unspent or a spent shell casing, right? It did say it was a weathered bullet, but you also have to remember, by Suzanne's side of the bed, in the bedroom, in the Morphew home, was a unspent shell casing.
Yep.
So I wonder if the one that was found in the shallow grave connects to the one that was found in the Morphew home.
Yep.
Someone is asking about a grand jury. The state has a grand jury. I know Chaffee County has a grand jury. That's something that, the prosecution could do, which means that if they do bring it to a grand jury, that the grand jury could decide whether or not to bring charges against someone. And then if they do bring charges against someone, there doesn't have to be a preliminary hearing because of the grand jury. So that would speed up this justice for Suzanne, I would say.
Yep.
Someone's wondering if we think that if the dart was jabbed into her leg in order for the meds to be in the bone. So, folks that do autopsies, they can get a lot of information from the bone marrow of, it doesn't have to be like a toxicology report is just from, it can be from bone marrow, it can be from tissues and things like that. So it doesn't have, like, we don't know, the investigators don't know where the dart was jabbed into this, into Suzanne Morphew. The bone marrow is just, because of the remains and how they were, and that there was just bones left, that's how they could get the toxicology report, was from the bone marrow. They didn't have her skin. They didn't have blood. They didn't have all these things that they typically would get from a toxicology report, but they had to get it from the bone marrow because that's all that remained in the shallow grave in Saguache County. I'm reading comments. If you have questions, this is a great time to ask. Again, Sarah and I, we're not in the news anymore. We don't work for a TV station, so we can answer a lot of questions that might be burning, that you've had for years and we haven't been able to answer because we were tied to a TV station or something like that. So please feel free to ask us questions. Oh, Tammy Clips got engaged too, but she's saying congratulations. I posted a lot of folks saying congratulations to you, Sarah, while you were talking.
Yes. I see one question that's coming up a lot is the fact that obviously they were still able to find the tranquilizer chemicals and stuff still in her bones, and just kind of how that works. Like, wouldn't she have to be alive for a certain amount of time for that to kind of sink in? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, this person, Lobo, is asking a great question. I have seen, as well as I think a lot of viewers have seen, a gun that was found out there near Suzanne's shallow grave. That's a great question as far as, is that connected to the bullet that was found in the shallow grave? Of course, that wasn't, these new documents that were released today only have to do with Suzanne's remains. Doesn't have to do with what else was found, right? Like, it doesn't, the gun might have nothing to do with this case, and it has to do with another case. We don't know. I think we would learn more answers if there were to be an arrest affidavit and maybe the gun is included in that.
Yeah.
Someone's asking if they can test her port for opioids. That's a good question. I don't know that answer. Do you, Sarah?
Mm-mm.
She did have like caffeine in her system, but I was talking to an investigator that said like caffeine stays in your system for a while. Even if you ate, had caffeine like 12 hours ago, the night before or it stays in your system pretty long.
There's definitely some questions for you, but I'll let you.
I don't see them.
Decide which ones you want to answer.
Can you pop them up, Sarah?
I don't think I can. I don't know how.
Yeah, so let's talk about the dart casing. It was actually like the sheath it's like a plastic covering to the dart in the washing machine inside the Morphew home. Not the washing machine, excuse me, the dryer. And it was like bundled up with other sheets and other clothing that was being washed. So for folks that are wondering if do you think an abductor that would have taken Suzanne from her bike accident, would they have really taken the time to go back to the home and plant this sheath, the tranquilizer sheath. And a lot of people are wondering, like, did the tranquilizer material, is that what caused her death? And right now, it's the homicide is by unspecified means, but there was the BAM, setting into her system. So they don't, I mean, you can't exclude it, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
Someone's wondering why the autopsy report verified that she had coffee. Well, there was also signs of caffeine in her from the toxicology report from her femur. Trying to look at other questions.
Yeah, I can't pop any up, so I'm just at the mercy of you.
Sarah, should I answer this question?
I mean, you're not in news anymore.
I was scheduled to be at the search. Had it on my calendar, had packed and everything. And I had brought it to my human resources attention that I had been threatened multiple times by different people involved in the case, and that I would like to have a photographer go with me to the search so that I wouldn't be alone, that I wouldn't be by myself in an area with no service, no cell phone service at all, because I knew I had already been threatened multiple times. I still wanted to report on the case. I wanted to meet folks like yourselves that, went out and searched for Suzanne. Over like 400, 500 people came out to Salida to help search for Suzanne with Andy. And I had reported the night before that I had been there. I was planning to be there. And then when HR got the word that I was worried about my safety, they kind of was like, let's hold off and have you stay back, and we have to do an internal investigation. And I couldn't say anything. I couldn't talk to Sarah. I couldn't say anything about what was going on with me. It's unfortunate because I wanted to meet Andy. Still haven't met Andy. We had talked prior and afterwards. So yeah. Does that sum it up, Sarah?
Yep, pretty much. And there were a lot of people that even, because obviously Lauren had mentioned, online and other things that she had planned to be at the surge. And when she wasn't there, a lot of people started calling the station and asking. I had gone out there with a different reporter, and people were even coming up to me asking why Lauren wasn't there. And like she said, she couldn't even tell me. And so I just kind of had to make up some excuse because I didn't really know why she had gotten pulled from the story at the time. And so that was kind of hard because obviously she's been following it since day one. You guys all relied on her and trusted her and were expecting her to be there and support and, to cover this. And then to just be ripped from it and not be able to tell anybody, it definitely was kind of shocking and surprising for a lot of people to just not see her there. And we don't ever want anybody to think that it was because she didn't care and she forgot. Yeah. Like, none of that. She had every intention of being there, and it was just an unfortunate situation that had to pull her from that.
Yeah. And it was kind of like, I would say management just got like a slap on the wrist, like, make sure your employees feel safe when they cover stories. And I felt like my credibility was questioned. People didn't trust what I did and said as a reporter, and so that was really hard. And I'm glad I'm no longer there. Here's another question. What did you say, Sarah?
I was going to say, Sunny said that she called the station, or they said they called the station.
Yeah, and that was the hardest thing, is that I was being accused of putting on or telling people to call the station and all this stuff, and I never did that. So there was accusations made that were not true. But this person is wondering, Sherry's wondering if I'll ever release the interview that I did with Barry Morphew. I don't want to hurt this case at all. I want, the investigators and the district attorney's office, whoever it may be that brings this case to a courtroom, I want it to be closed case before ever sharing any of that information. Who knows if some of my interviews would be used in the courtroom? I mean, probably. But as far as releasing the full interview, yeah, I hope one day. I hope I want to release it for sure.
Yep.
So maybe one day. What other things people are wondering about, like, how did they stumble upon her remains? So they were looking for Edna Cantina, another missing woman from that area. And so they were searching for her in Saguache County, in Moffett, and they found human remains. They were not Edna Cantina's, obviously, but they were Suzanne Morphew's. They had to collect all that evidence. They had to identify her through dental records, Suzanne, and also they found a port from her cancer treatments. And then they started, I've been told from family members as well, as that, they sent off her remains to, multiple, this autopsy was signed off by multiple people. Leon Kelly, you've interviewed Leon Kelly, Dr. Leon Kelly from El Paso County Coroner.
Yep.
Allison Cooper, Dr. Megan Kleisner, Dr. Jared, I don't think that's a doctor. ND is a doctor. I think that might be the dentist. Emily Russell Kinsley is the doctor too. Anyways, I've heard it was the remains were sent off to Quantico as well. Do you see another question? You can just say the questions as you see them.
Annie is saying that we need to write a book someday about this case.
Something that I haven't mentioned is, through this case, I've gotten to know Suzanne's family. I've gotten to know Suzanne's friends. I've gotten to know the town of Salida and the people that have continued to keep her name out there. And Sarah, you have too. And how big of an impact, getting to know these people. It's been huge, right?
Yep.
People are asking about, any advice for women or anyone that's experiencing verbal domestic abuse. I think something that I've learned through this case is tell people, tell a lot of people, and slowly leave.
Yep.
Too. Have a plan. Don't just abruptly try to get out, right?
And that's the one thing to keep in mind too, is that you're not alone in this. There are a lot of women that go through this as well and have been through it, or still going through it. So you should never feel, uncomfortable or scared to tell somebody, because there are so many women out there who can empathize with what you're going through and can offer advice and tips and ways for you to get out of that situation safely and into a life that you deserve.
Yeah, and we're not therapists, so please, seek professional help.
Mm-hmm.
Another question is who's threatened, why? I'll just leave it as someone told me, I'll come after you when we find my wife. So. People are asking if, the daughters are still on Barry's side. As far as I know, they're still standing by his side and supporting him. Someone is saying I called the station.
Thank you, Magali. Sorry if I mispronounced that, but Magali Kane. Thank you for your sweet words.
I didn't see it. I'll have to look through these. Someone's ever wondering if I found the source of the threats and did I follow up with law enforcement? Yes, I followed up with law enforcement. Do you remember one of the last days of the preliminary hearing, Sarah, where I had to be escorted into the courtroom by deputies?
Yep.
Yeah, that was interesting. It was nice to actually get a call from Sheriff Speasy, understanding the seriousness of what was being said to me and taking them seriously and helping me do the job that I was hired to do, right? I'm just there trying to report on what's being said in the courtroom, and it was scary, right?
Yep.
Oh, that is so sweet. I just now saw the comment. How do I put this on? From a retired HR, I don't know how to put it on. I think it's the one that you highlighted, Sarah. From a retired HR director, I'm truly sorry your former employer made your catapult over a mouse turd necessarily and without in-depth consideration. Erstwhile on. You go, girl. Erstwhile Eon. Okay. Well, that's really sweet. Yeah, I sometimes tell stories about previous experiences to my current employees, and they're just shocked with what I tell them.
Yep.
I think a lot of people are in awe and shock still from the autopsy results. It's like, how did the prosecution years ago predict that whenever they would find Suzanne's body, that it would have this tranquilizer sedative material in her bones, in her toxicology report, right?
Yeah, and I think a few of you had mentioned this too, but you were remembering correctly that one of the things that was discussed in the preliminary hearing is the fact that his phone was pinging all over the house the day of, and so there was a lot of speculation that he was chasing her around the house. I know a few people had mentioned that, and they weren't sure if they were remembering correctly, but yes, that was something that had come up that day as well.
Remember this too, Sarah?
Oh, yeah. Gotta love her.
Yeah. I remember when Barry's sister said what she said in the courtroom, and I was just like, listen, I've just been doing my job. I don't know. I'm just reporting, and I asked, your brother for interviews, and he did. And
you always tried to get his side and give him the opportunity to tell.
Remember how many times we went to Salida and and try to get him to do interviews with us and talk with us. And
Yep.
everyone's like, she was just trying to silence you.
Yep. 100%.
They're trying to protect their client. Someone says, long live Lauren. I'll never forget one tweet. Someone tweeted me and was like, Lauren for president. And I just died in the courtroom because I was just like, it was just like such a high emotion, you know, and then someone to say it like that was really nice.
Yeah.
For folks that are just now joining us, I think we have like about 600 viewers right now. If you haven't seen, the update is the autopsy report of Suzanne Morphew has been completed. And it pretty much says it was ruled a homicide by unspecified means. So we don't really know exactly, you know, what killed her, but we know that foul play was involved and that there was some sort of sedative, such as BAM, which is a tranquilizer material for animals. I'm used to hearing about that when it comes to like wildlife officers relocating an animal. Barry Morphew admitted he had some. There was some at the house at the time of this incident. Barry Morphew admitted that he threw away some of it the weekend of Mother's Day weekend. He also admitted to law enforcement officers that he shot deer with the tranquilizer material to then take their antlers, which is illegal in Colorado.
Oh, did you see the question from Maui Girl? She said, what interview that you've done for Suzanne's case was the most interesting?
Whew. That's a good question. I mean, I have so many interviews that haven't been released yet. A lot of interviews that, you know, I hope one day to share, right? I think the most interesting was Jeff Puckett because he
That's what I was thinking.
was just so forthcoming and just so like off the cusp, like didn't care like what reaction he would get. He was working at the time we were interviewing him in the shop, and we asked him like point blank, like, go back to the Mother's Day weekend. Tell us like what did you smell in the hotel room? And he was like, immediately my eyes were burning from the smell of chlorine in the hotel room that, you know, Barry Morphew stayed in.
Yep.
And I asked him, you know, what do you think what happened? You know, and he said something like, if he didn't do it, then aliens did it, or something so bizarre, but it was just, and rest in peace, Jeff Puckett. He's no longer with us, but he was so, you could tell that he felt like he was trapped in a situation that he didn't want anything to do with, and he just was trying to tell us what happened that weekend. And he was upset. Remember how upset he was about how he went all the way to Broomfield and there was not a job for them to do. The material wasn't there. The bricks weren't there. He was like, I wasted my weekend, and he was just upset. So that was an interesting. What about you? What other interviews do you think was interesting?
I mean, that was definitely the one that came to my mind. I never did, I don't think at least, a formal interview with Andy, as I was at the memorial, but I think that one just kind of sticks with me because of obviously his relationship with Suzanne being her brother. and just hearing, like, you could just feel all of the emotions that he was feeling and being, like, you know, scared and nervous and sad. And you could just feel all of that when he was talking about her. And even though it was a very brief interview, it was just very impactful talking to one of her relatives in that moment. And, like, you know, the emotions that were coming from searching all day for her and everything, and then seeing the turnout of everyone that came that night to support her. That one was definitely just really impactful for me.
I think one of the most impactful interviews I did, which was either the interview with Melinda Mormon, Balzer, I guess I should say now, her married name, but I talked to her right after the news of the initial report that Barry Morphew had been arrested back in May of 2021. And then I also spoke with her and met her after the remains were found this past September. And she constantly says there's like no winners in this story, right? A family has lost their mother, their wife, their my sister, right? She's like constantly saying how, you know, she constantly wants justice for her daughter, for her sister.
Yeah.
And that I'll never forget the quote, which I'm trying to find, about roses. She was like, the roses among thorns, I guess, is how Melinda described Suzanne. And I just thought that was so beautiful, right?
Yeah.
Any other questions that we can answer? I keep bouncing around.
Somebody said maybe they will arrest him around the anniversary like last time.
I do know of a couple things that are going on in Indiana, one of which is a celebration of life for Suzanne that's been put on by her daughters and Barry. And I understand that it is an invite-only private celebration of life. A lot of Suzanne's family members, I had to let them know that I found out about it, and they didn't even know. And some of Suzanne's friends as well from high school. Also this weekend, I believe the town of Alexandria is putting on a celebration for her, and a lot of the some of the proceeds will be going to the historic museum in Alexandria. And actually, fun fact about that, the building that museum is at is the same building that I believe her stepfather worked at. So that's kind of bizarre coincidence. People are asking, like, what is the talk around town? For Colorado, I know that people are just glad to see this kind of coming to an end, that, you know, they're getting more answers, that, you know, her remains have been found, and hoping that, you know, one day there'll be justice for Suzanne. But I don't know. I haven't heard about what people are saying in Indiana. But maybe after this week, I'll learn more. Someone's asking.
Are you seeing the comments about people claiming her remains?
Nobody is claiming her remains, or who?
So,
Barry is the next of kin, so him and his daughters could come pick up the remains. And from the coroner, he told me that if they don't pick up the remains, then it goes to the brother and sisters of Suzanne.
Tommy's clip said, I heard Suzanne's body is still at the morgue, that the lawyers told him not to claim her because they don't know if he's a suspect.
What does that have to do about picking up your wife's remains?
Like, they're not going to let Barry take them if he's a suspect. But that's just what someone's heard.
Oh, so Teresa is saying his attorneys advised him not to? Wouldn't you want the remains for the celebration of life?
Yeah. You would think.
Someone's wondering about this. We don't know what the girls are thinking. Someone's asking if I'm going to go to the family's memorial. Do you think I would be welcome, Sarah?
Considering it's an invite only, I don't think you're at the top of Barry's guest list. So I'm going to say you probably wouldn't be allowed in.
I've even heard that like some of her closest friends weren't even invited, which is sad.
Yeah.
Let's answer a few more questions and then head off. Yeah, so Colleen is asking if we remember any specifics about the tranquilizers being brought up in court, like the name of the drugs. I sort of remember the BAM, like them using the word BAM, which is the acronym for what was setting in from her toxicology report. Do you remember anything more, Sarah?
Not really, just that was a really big thing that they found the sheath in the dryer, and they were trying to piece together how that would have just ended up in there with the rest of their clothes.
And I kind of remember the prosecution saying that they were trying to point out that Barry's shorts, like khaki shorts, and their conclusion was that, you know, they were trying to theorize and say that Barry had put the sheath in his pocket that then fell out in the dryer, you know, when it was doing its spin cycle, right? And that's how the sheath got in there. And then, you know, tying it to the unused tranquilizer material in the garage, and then asking him about it in interviews, and Barry responding saying he remembers throwing some away that weekend, right? Yeah, just a reminder that's, you know, that's kind of what the prosecution had theorized from, you know, years ago in 2021, that's kind of what they think happened, right?
Somebody commented the full technical name of it, The Journey to Justice. If anybody's wondering what BAM stands for.
I can try to pronounce it. Sarah, do you want me to? I was like trying earlier. She's like, don't do it. Butorphanol is the B. Azapram is the A. And the M stands for, I'm saying these wrong probably, Medetomidine. Butorphanol, aspirin, medetomidine is what BAM stands for.
That's what it looks like, so yep.
I'm sure everyone's commenting like, no, that's not how you say it. Great job trying. Oh, someone says A+.
Oh, nice.
Everyone's laughing too, but that's okay. People are just saying we needed this live. Hey, it's good to see you guys. I know it's been a really long time since 7 months, right? Since Suzanne remains had been found.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was.
Hey, and I've been out there, and it is so vast and just deserty, and there's small little brush, and we found some wildflowers, and we put them on. When I say we put them on where we believe was the site where the remains were found, to mark it. But I believe that Tisha Leeway in Salida, who has been constantly keeping her name, Suzanne Morphew's name out there and awareness. She was Suzanne's hairstylist. She is having another memorial for Suzanne, which would be May 11th in Poncha Springs, which is the town right outside of Salida. And I believe are going to go to where the remains were found in Moffett and Saguache County and either spread wildflowers or something to mark where Suzanne's remains were found.
Everyone's telling us we need to go get McFlurries now.
Well, once I'm done with a 75 hard. Has anyone done 75 hard?
Nope.
Does anyone know what that is?
That's going to be a hard pass.
Well, I'm on like day 68, so hopefully I'll be done soon. What are some other evidence that we still are scratching our heads about? I'm thinking of the fireplace and the like burnt pieces of, was it a journal or something? Or
yeah, it was like a journal and a Bible.
That would be good to figure out what that came from. Also, the like broken door frame of the Morphew's like bedroom. Remember that? Everyone's hoping that this is. Oh, that's not what I wanted. This is another chance for Suzanne to finally get the justice she deserves, which I totally agree. Oh, someone's asking about the metal piece in the fireplace. I don't remember that. Do you remember a metal piece found in the... I thought that might have been like the binding of maybe a journal or something.
Oh, yeah.
But this person is wondering if it was the seat wire. Lobo?
So, where is it? Illuminating Ink said the Bobcat. That is definitely one for me that has kind of stuck with me because if I remember correctly, whenever they had like the dogs out there sniffing and everything, they were really attracted to the Bobcat and nothing ever came of that. And I feel like that just kind of got dismissed or overlooked, and maybe they looked into it and there was nothing there, but I feel like that was such a big thing. Like even the first place they checked was a property he had been working on because they figured he's got access to it, he's got the machines, like he could have buried her in the concrete of this house, but I feel like that was never really looked into as much as it probably could have been, or we just don't know at least.
What about the sheets from the daughter's room that were never found, or like the bikini that Suzanne was wearing, or the towel, the brown towel that was in the last photo of Suzanne? I'm wondering what happened to those items. What about her earbuds that she always wore during her bike rides, you know? Or her cell phone. We still don't know where her cell phone went. I thought maybe it would be in the shallow grave, but that was not an item that was found. And just for folks that are, you know, just coming on, the items that were found were a pale pattern balaclava, a pink and light color leather work glove, a light color partial padded bra, a ripped dark blue gray hooded sweatshirt labeled Crusted Butte, a torn green Nike tank top, Yeti shorts, and a fabric fragments. And there were 5 of those. I wonder, maybe, what if the fat, like, what is the fabric fragments? Is that from the sheets, maybe?
Yeah, I was wondering that too.
Someone's mentioning the bare footprint in the bobcat. Remember that?
Yep.
Why there was never a photo taken of that, I will never know.
Yep.
Her shoes weren't found. Yep. Tammy, you're right. Her shoes were not found. You would think, a bicyclist would have, rubber or, professional bike shoes. They would, someone's wondering about her wedding ring. That's a good point.
Yep.
All right, Sarah, any last words?
Nope. I'm anxious to see how this ends and what happens next with all of this new information, these new findings.
Yeah. We'll have to get you back out here in Colorado.
I mean, hey, regardless of what happens, when this goes to trial, I will be there.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you guys all so much for tuning in, and hopefully the next time we are on YouTube Live, maybe there'll be more justice for Suzanne, right, Sarah?
Yep. We're praying and hoping.
Yeah. All right, guys. Keep Suzanne's name out there. Remember that, we're coming up on her 4-year anniversary of her disappearance. Try to keep, her family in your thoughts and prayers during this difficult time. I know her birthday is supposed to be tomorrow. She would have been 53, I believe, which is crazy that it's already been for almost 4 years since she disappeared. Yeah. So hopefully we'll have more answers soon. All right. Stay safe, everyone. And thanks so much for watching. Bye.
Bye.